Singar, I hardly knew her. Hello and welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity. If it's Wednesday, we have a cocktail video coming at you. Today we have a cocktail in 3 parts. I have for a while been wanting to do the Singapore Sling. My father was a Vietnam veteran, and it's one of the few cocktails. My dad doesn't really drink very much, but it's one of the few cocktails that he kind of knows and liked from that time period. And after researching a little bit, it's kind of an interesting cocktail because it's the recipes vary very significantly. The cocktail was supposedly created at the Raffles Hotel in 1915 by Nghinh Tong Boon, which I am almost certainly butchering that name, and I apologize, except if he created a cocktail in 1915, I'm pretty sure he's beyond being offended at this point. Dave Wonder says that is actually incorrect. The cocktail had actually been in circulation in Singapore as early as the late 1890s, so I'm not sure exactly where the exact location and exact date of the creation of the cocktail, but I'm willing to say probably late 1890s, early 1900s, turn of the century style cocktail. This cocktail is sometimes sort of put in there with tiki cocktails. I think it really kind of predates tiki by a fair amount, but it does sort of have some of the hallmarks of tiki cocktails. But now that we know a little bit about the history of the cocktail, or rather we don't know a lot about the history of the cocktail, let's jump right in on and make it or make them. Okay, so as you can see, we have 3 mixing glasses. We are going to be making this cocktail 3 different ways. For lack of a better term, I am calling these Archaic, Traditional, and Modern. The Archaic comes from Dave Wondrich, the sort of eminent scholar and the guy that knows more about cocktails than anybody that I've read up on. The Traditional comes from Robert Vermeer, and that was the first cocktail book this appears in. That's 1922. And the modern version is sort of an amalgamation of a lot of the more modern recipes, where we're going to introduce a couple of other ingredients that we don't see in the first 2 versions. And I'm going to be really interested to see which one of these versions kind of tastes the best. So we're going to start off, again, most of these are going to have very similar ingredients, but different proportions. The first difference in our Archaic version, we're going to use an ounce of lime juice. Now, this is one of the only recipes where I see this cocktail using lime juice. It's almost exclusively using lemon juice. So, for our other 2, we're going to use 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice in our Traditional, and we are going to use 1/2 ounce of lemon juice in our Modern. Now, this is going to be kind of a problem. So, the original version, this is calling for a cherry brandy. Most people now are using this, which is a hearing. This is a cherry liqueur. So I believe this starts off as a brandy and has cherry flavoring added to it. I think for our purposes that's going to work just fine, but this wouldn't probably be what was used when the cocktail was first made. But that's what we have now. So this one, and by the way, this first one you're going to notice a pattern. This is basically an equal parts cocktail. So we're going to add 1 ounce of our cherry brandy, or in this case our cherry brandy substitute. And our other 2 versions are both going to get 1/2 ounce. Some of these cocktails in a slings traditionally call for sugar or simple syrup. I'm not putting simple syrup in any of these. I think that with our brandies and with our Benedictine, we're probably going to be plenty sweet, so I'm not worried about adding any more sweetness to this cocktail. All right, next ingredient, we're going to add our Benedictine. This is a herbal liqueur, or herbal liqueur, whichever you prefer. So our first one, again, as in equal parts, we are adding 1 ounce for Benedictine. For our Traditional, we are adding 1/2 ounce of Benedictine. And for our Modern, just 1/4 ounce. Now Benedictine, it is very aromatic, and I'm interested to see how much an ounce of that is going to go. It'll be interesting to see. Okay, so our spirit in this cocktail is gin. In this case, I'm going to use Beefeaters. This was created by British people, or people being controlled by British people, and pretty much everybody, not everybody, most people seem to agree that a London Dry is the proper gin to use, so I'm going to go with a Beefeater. So as with all the ingredients so far, our first Archaic version is going to get 1 ounces. Our Traditional is going to get 2 ounces, and our Modern is going to get 1.5 ounces. Now so far, our traditional and our modern have looked pretty similar. That is going to change. Okay, next we're going to bring bitters into the picture. So these are all going to be getting 2 dashes of Ango bitters. So we're going for our Archaic 1, 2, traditional 1, 2, modern 1, 2. Now for our traditional, we're also going to toss in 2 ounces of orange bitters. In the modern version of the cocktail, it seems like people are, generally speaking, tossing in 1/2 ounce of an orange liqueur. In this case, I'm going to use Cointreau, because I like Cointreau. Now, our first 2 cocktails are completed. Now is when we're going to add in our sort of new ingredients that are used kind of primarily in the modern version of this cocktail. The first of those ingredients is going to be grenadine. Now, this calls for 1/4 ounce. A little grenadine goes a long way. I'm going to go ahead and go with that, but that is a fair amount. And the last one that I found kind of the most confusing, but again, this is only for the modern version, and that is pineapple juice. So we're going to toss in 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice. So these are all completed. Now again, we have our first one, which is sort of our Archaic. This is our David Wondrich version. This is basically an equal parts 4-part cocktail with 2 dashes of Ango bitters. And then our traditional, which is, you know, the first version of this that appears in the cocktail book, and again the modern version, which we add in our pineapple juice and our grenadine. So now the only thing we need to do is shake these up and pour them into glasses and then pour them into our faces. Okay, let's toss these in some shakers and shake them. Okay, once you got them all shaken up, go ahead and open up your shakers. And we are going to strain these into some chilled Collins glasses with some ice and a straw already in them. Okay, so we're going to double strain these. We do have citrus in all these. So, our Archaic. Next we have our traditional. And by the way, that's some of the name I just came up with. That's just kind of how I think of these different versions. And finally, our modern variation. Now one thing you're going to see, this is nice and red. That is that grenadine in there. For all these, we are going to top them with some fresh soda water. Just to fizz them up a bit. I think garnish is super important here. I've seen people go with some really crazy garnishes, but I'm just going to toss in 1 maraschino cherry, because then when I'm done, I get to have a maraschino cherry. All right, and there we have our Singapore Sling 3 ways. So I think we go with age before beauty. Wow, that's interesting. That's very bright. Your Benedictine, it's funny, the cherry actually is kind of a little muted in there. I expected with the cherry liqueur to have so much sugar in it, and it's so sweet, that it would kind of dominate. But this is, the Benedictine is definitely doing more than anything else. That's a really good cocktail. I'm kind of surprised. Benedictine, and again, as I said when I started making this, a little goes a long way, and I was afraid that was going to be too much. It might be a little too much for some people, but I like that quite a bit, actually. All right, so now our traditional. This is more balanced. In some ways, I think it's maybe a little bit less interesting. I think, so Beefeater isn't a super forward gin. It's not like the most flavorful gin in the world. I think maybe going with a gin that I like a little better might have helped out. I'm kind of a Bombay Sapphire East guy. I think that might have done a little bit better in this drink. Yeah, like I said, it's probably a little more balanced, but I just don't, it's not quite as vibrant as the sort of early version. But let's see how it stacks up against our modern take. This is a weird one to compare. Your pineapple juice and your grenadine, it basically makes it a different cocktail. It is good. It is a little sweet. I think I would probably cut back. If you make this yourself, just toss in a dash of grenadine. Like, you really don't need much because you want to get that nice, because I mean, obviously this is the prettiest cocktail. It's got that nice kind of red, vibrant colors. These kind of look like iced tea. Maybe not even great iced tea. It is very sweet though. The Benedictine is, we had decreasing levels of Benedictine in each one of these. You know, we have an ounce, half an ounce, and a quarter of an ounce here. And to be honest, I'm missing it. I am missing it in this drink. This is probably going to be the most approachable for just somebody who's not into cocktails, maybe not into spirits or not into sort of more adventurous flavors. It's nice, it's sweet, it's refreshing. It's a great poolside cocktail. I just think I probably, yeah, I think I'd have the Archaic version, which kind of surprised me. I thought that wouldn't work, but it really does. Again, very vibrant. Benedictine's doing a lot of work there. Yeah, I'm gonna go try each one more time. Yeah, to me the traditional, it's lacking just a little bit. It's a good cocktail. These are all good cocktails. I would drink any of these. But when you're comparing them side by side, you kind of have to, you know, compare them on their own merits. Yeah, that's good too. I really feel like we're comparing two cocktails to just a different cocktail. The ingredients are mostly the same, obviously, in these, but your pineapple juice and your grenadine, it's just taking it to a totally different place. And that's not necessarily good or bad. It really depends on what your flavor profile is, what you like to, if you like pineapple juice, you're going to like this. Very tasty cocktail. Between sort of our original two, I think I'd go with the Archaic version. So I think maybe Dave Wondrich has, maybe knows a thing or two. So anyway, on that bombshell, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a good drink, and have a good day.